Hi, so in today's video I'm going to look at averages again, just like my previous two videos. So we've done, so far we have looked at raw data and we've looked at data in a frequency table, and this video today we're going to be looking at data in a frequency table again, but this time the frequency table has groups, okay? So sometimes when data is collected, we collate it in groups to make things a lot easier. So if you've ever filled out one of those surveys that people do on the streets, if they ask you for your age or something, there'll always be like a little category rather than it being a whole list of everybody's different age. So sometimes it's more convenient to do that. However, it then poses a bit of a problem when we then want to collate that data and then do something with it or perform any calculations on it. So what I'm looking at today, this is just some data as an example. So this is weight and it's in grams, I should have put that in there. And we've got categories. Now first thing I want you to notice is the inequality signs on here. So you should know that if you've got a line on an inequality sign, it means that that number is included. So for this group here, the weight, W, is between 24 and 30 grams, but we include the 24 because of the line here, but we do not include the 30. And in actual fact, once we hit 30 grams, we go into the next group here and so on, okay? And then we have the frequency, so the number of whatever this is that's being weighed, which it occurs into each of the categories. So there are 22 items that weigh between 24 and 30 grams, 45 between 30 and 36, and so on, okay? Now sometimes it will tell you in the question, but not all the time, but I'll tell you this, the total of these is 200, so there were 200 items that were actually weighed, but if it's not given to you, you can always work that out. Now if you remember from when we looked at finding averages from a frequency table, there were different things that you needed to do for the three types of average, and the three types of average, just to remind you, are mean, median and mode. Okay, now all of these have different techniques to find them, and if you remember rightly, the mean is where we add everything up and divide by how many there are. The median is where you have all of your data in order and you find the middle value, and the mode is the one that appears most often, okay? And they've all got their pros and cons, and I discussed that in the previous video if you want to go back and refresh your memory on that. Now calculating the mean, when we did it with a frequency table, if you remember, what we did was these were just single numbers and we just did a multiplication, because say this was just the number 24, there were 22 that weighed that particular weight, so we did that weight times by the 22, we filled in this column, then we added up that column and divided by the total frequency. Now we can't do that with a grouped frequency table, because how do we know where these 22 were? So we know that 22 of these items were between 24 grams and 30 grams, but we don't know what they specifically weighed. So what we actually calculate is an estimate for the mean, and it will say that in the question, it will say calculate an estimate for the mean. And the reason it's an estimate is because what we actually do is we find the midpoint of each of these groups and we use that to do our multiplication with, okay? So we could choose the bottom, we could choose the top, but it makes sense really to choose something in the middle, because then it gives us an idea of what the average would be, but it is an estimate, and that's important to remember. So the first column that we're going to fill in is we're going to work out the midpoint, okay? So the midpoint of this group here, 24 to 30, is 27, and if you're not sure how to calculate that, you can either do it by eye, or if you really don't know, add the two numbers together and divide by 2. So 24 and 30 added together is 54, and then half of 54 is 27. The next one is 33, the next one 39, okay, and the next one is 45, and lastly we have 51, okay. Right, then we do exactly what we did last time. Now I'm going to call the frequency, let's do it in red so you can see, F, and I'm going to call the midpoint X, and then this last column we can call Fx. Okay, so it's the frequency multiplied by the midpoint. Alright, now I've calculated these already, so I'm just going to write them down for you, but obviously with numbers this big, use your calculator, but please be careful when you're typing it in that you don't make a mistake. Okay, and then what we need to do for the mean is we find the total of this column and we divide it by the total frequency. Now I've already told you there were 200 items, but if you're ever not sure, please just add those up. And the total of this column is 7,740. Okay, now the mean then, if you do that calculation, 7,740 divided by 200, and just like I said when we did the frequency table without groups, a common mistake is for people to get that total, do all that hard work and then just go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and divide by 5. Now if you do 7,000 and something divided by 5, you're going to get a pretty big number. Okay, and if you do this and divide by 200, you get 38.7. Now look, the best thing to do is to look at your answer and say to yourself, does it make sense? So look at your frequencies here, look at the data, where would you expect the average to be? Well, most of them are in this group, and you've also got high frequencies either side, so I would expect it to be somewhere between 30 and 48, and it is 38.7. Okay, that is a reasonable answer, so I've got no reason to question myself. If you feel that your answer's not right, then like I say, go back and check it. It's easy when you've got big numbers like this to make a mistake typing into a calculator somewhere, so do go and check it, alright? But look at your answer and see, is it reasonable? Now don't forget, this was weight and it was grams, so if you've got units, you ought to give units in your answer. Okay, now we've got the last two to do, the median and the mode. Now when you're calculating the median and the mode for grouped data, all you can really do at this stage is to calculate the median or the modal group. You cannot do anything else. Alright, so this actually doesn't change, so it's exactly the same technique as was used in the last video that I did where we didn't have groups. So all you do is a little running total, so you do your cumulative frequency down here. So obviously that's just 22 because there's nothing else to add on. Then we have 67, 139, 182 and then 200. Now for the median, remember we're going halfway, so we're looking for the 100th value. Okay, and the 100th value here is going to be in this group here because that only takes you up to 67, so all the way from 68 all the way up to the 139th value is in that group, and so therefore the median group, okay, is 36 to 42. And the modal group, let's just change that to modal group. The modal group is actually the same group. It's the one with the highest frequency, and if you look there, the one with the biggest frequency is 72, which is again 36 to 42. Okay, and really that's all there is to it. Okay.